Hello, and welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. We have my good friend Bonner Black here, and I'm so excited to have her on this because we've talked about the podcast since it came out, and she's a curious girl. But I personally am a huge fan of Bonner's music, and when I go to her shows, I sing along to every single song. But on top of being an amazing singer-songwriter, she's also a bird watcher, and she pops off on TikTok and Instagram for that, but adds comedy to it. So basically, she's just like a Renaissance woman, right? And you're going to be a keynote speaker soon.
Yeah. At an ornithology
Yeah, I was going to say, I said keynote speaker because I didn't know how to say it.
Society's yearly meeting.
Wow.
Yes.
Where's
a lot of words. I don't know. It's in Alabama. I probably should figure out where that's going to be. But thanks so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of this podcast and a huge fan of you and you as well. So I'm just a little giddy right now. I'm very excited.
I also just want to say Bonner is also a very loyal friend, and she stuck up for me at a dinner one time that I wasn't at when I was going through a very hard time, and I'll never forget it. And I think about it all the time. So I just love you.
Always good arms
with
for
a
you.
badass name like Bonner Black, it's such a cool name. Actually. It really is. And we talk a little bit about where that came from and your parents and everything like that. But that was interesting.
Yeah, she was saying that she has a sister, and I was saying that because I'm obsessed with both your names, Bonner and Battle Black.
Battle has
so cool.
the cool name, Battle, Battle. And she very much is that she is a tough cookie. So Battle embraces her name, embodies her name. My name is my mom's maiden name. And so Battle's my grandmother's maiden name. So just, so good old Southern family names passed down from generations.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Hot Rock, Tennessee, which is an unincorporated community in about an hour and a half south of Nashville. So it's not like legally a town. We have a sign and we're recognized by the state, and we get our resources from the surrounding counties. So technically my mailing address is Fayetteville, Tennessee, which the town of Fayetteville is like 40 minutes away. So super, I grew up on a farm there and then was homeschooled on said farm.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's so cool.
it was cool. I think our population is like maybe around 100 people. So I always wanted to move to Nashville, or just growing up, I was a ballerina, and I thought I either wanted to go dance in New York City or Paris or London. But then I ended up falling in love with songwriting and guitar and music. And my parents brought me to Nashville, I think like early high school age, just for a vocal lesson for my birthday. And we'd go to Broadway, and then the dream became Nashville. So when I moved to Nashville, I felt like this is the big city. There's sidewalks and traffic lights. So, yeah.
Well, just from the very beginning, for some reason, I don't envision a lot of farm girls into ballet. It's just those two. I don't think a lot of girls are like, milking cows and also doing ballet or something. But that just kind of shows that you had this.
We're obviously from New York, the way that we're
right,
he's
we don't
trying
know
to
anything
explain how
about
this
it whatsoever. Right? So.
He clearly has no idea what any of it is. So.
No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, granted, I had to drive an hour away to go to ballet classes. But my parents put me in ballet when I was 4 years old, and that just sparked my love of performing and the stage. Like as a child, I was so dramatic, and so like I always wanted to put on a show. I always wanted to be like the center of attention, spotlight. I was always coming up with plays and like forcing my sister to like play the prince or something. I remember my very famous show that I came up with when I was 7 was The Magic Strawberry. And I put on that performance for years and years, forcing everybody at like Thanksgiving, Christmas to watch The Magic Strawberry. So I think ballet was that first where I got on stage, and I remember like the applause and the lights and like that like adrenaline, and the like everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's a great feeling. It's addicting.
Ballet was like the catalyst into that. And it was kind of like a very back and forth childhood, because there was like, we'd drive, back to the farm, and we had horses, and my granddaddy had cows. and it was just wide open spaces. Not another house as far as I can see. There's still to this day like no paint on our roads. But driving back and forth between Nashville and Huntsville, Alabama, which Huntsville is where NASA is, and kind of getting that experience and just like the Hannah Montana, you get the best of both worlds, I think.
Were your parents creative themselves? Were they that type of, that they encouraged that in you, or?
My parents are, my dad is a businessman. My mom is a mathematician.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've always very much been the black sheep of the family, but my mom was an educator. My mom was a math teacher. So she kind of recognized growing up, ADHD was not a term used. I think it's not like a valid term in my family. Like that doesn't exist and it never has and it's not real, was like the narrative growing up. But my mom will always tell stories of like when she was homeschooling me, she would always have me run laps around the house in between classes because I would get really distracted. She would do all of my schoolwork in different colors on the whiteboard. She kind of had to like tailor my education for me just not thinking like they did and not being kind of like as much of a structured thinker. But no, my parents are very, very very left brained.
So was it just the hyper part, or did you struggle with anything? Like, are you naturally gifted in math like your mom, or
No.
so you found?
No, I'm terrible at math.
I'm always in the clouds. That's another thing that like when I actually like asked my aunt around my birthday, I was like, what was I like as a kid? And she just goes, you've always just had your head in the clouds. You've always been a dreamer. If there was like any feedback that I got from like the few teachers that I had when I was younger before I started homeschooling, it was like Bonner doesn't pay attention. Bonner's doesn't read through directions. I still struggle with that. So yeah, it's hard for me to focus. Like when I'm listening to podcasts or when I'm reading books, like I'll get 10 pages in and realize that I have been reading the words on the page, but I've been thinking about 10 other things and I have to like, I'm constantly rereading.
That always happens to me.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that, and I've had like a crazy imagination and there's like the term maladaptive daydreaming that I don't know.
Yeah, well, that would be, the right brain. There's left and right brain imagination, but the classic type of imagination where you kind of get lost in your own kind of fantasy world, but or you're thinking up things, or could be thinking up plays or what I can do, as you're talking about. But too much of that, it's hard for you to kind of live in and to be able to do the mundane things because you want to live in this kind of fantasy world.
Yes.
So
I remember when I saw that term and I was kind of reading about what it was, I realized, I do that. I get very lost in my own world. I like talk to myself and like act out scenarios when I'm alone in the kitchen and then turn around. I'm like, wait, did my roommates just see me? So yeah, I think I always kind of had my head in the clouds. And then I actually officially got diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 26, and it was like a sigh of relief and it changed my life. And I'm like so thankful to have gotten that diagnosis because it made me realize like, I'm not bad at math because I'm stupid. I wasn't able to pay attention because I'm stupid. I just, my brain works differently.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the whole neurodivergent thing, right? Is that it's not, but the thing that they don't talk about in the neurodivergent community is how you can, how it relates to you may be really good because your natural personality is geared towards something. Mm-hmm. And it's great, to understand and accept differences in people. But if it's maladaptive in some way, or if it's affecting you in some way negatively, there are things you can do to change it without changing the person and without being judgmental. And that's kind of where we want to come from that. So
what is maladaptive like that is, because can you explain that a little further?
Sure. It means that adaptations that we make, usually adapting to an environment is good, right? We want to fit in. Our brains, we have the most adaptive brains on the planet, where we can, kind of change to any environment so that we can best survive. That's kind of the whole idea of survival of the fittest, or, in part how evolution works. And so adaptations are good, but they can also be bad, meaning that you can adapt in a way that may not be the healthiest way, but it's a way that you do. So a lot of people that have imbalances in their brain, because no one's ever telling them how to change it, or if you're struggling in an area, you may adapt certain behaviors to protect yourself, or to protect your own heart, or to not have other people treat you in a certain way, like if people are bullied or something.
Yeah.
And you may go a different way that is, on a short term, may be protective, but long term is negatively impacting your life. And that becomes maladaptive, right?
Yeah.
So there's positive adaptations where we may adapt to something and it's beneficial to us. And then there's other ways that we may adapt that are negative.
Yeah, I think the negative, like I was seeing a therapist last year, and I was telling that because he was like, it's not bad that you create these scenarios or that you're like zoned out and stuff, because it's just, you can be in your own thoughts. But I found that I get so lost in my own world, I just miss out on the world. And I feel very, very safe in my imaginary world. And then when I'm in social situations, or like I get horrible social anxiety the next day, always getting like terrible social anxiety after any social situation. Ellis, we've talked about this.
I suffer from that.
It feels safer. That like fantasy version of myself, and that fantasy conversation that I have with somebody feels so much safer and more in my control than like the actual interaction sometimes. So yeah, I think like being the kid playing by myself alone on the farm is like where I feel safe. And then I don't know, but that's great. Thank you for explaining that more, because that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense the way that you just explained that, because I'm constantly always trying to make sense of how I'm feeling about things, but
yeah,
I feel that way too. Like I feel like sometimes I can be so in my imaginary worlds, and also I think maybe it's because I'm a Pisces or whatever, that I'm just like always daydreaming. But it's true, like anytime I feel like kind of like uncomfortable or something, I can like disassociate and like go into like sort of my own dreamland, and that I feel a lot more comfortable there. But that makes sense. The way you just said it kind of made it make more sense to me. But what made you want to get like diagnosed at 26? Like,
well, I had like, I call it the great mental breakdown of 2020. So and this is like where the bird watching came into play. So I had gone through a bad breakup at the time, and then I started having really bad panic attacks where
And this was in the middle of COVID then, right?
This was at the end of 2020. So this was like, we're almost getting into 2021. And I just remember this because I would just turn 25. And so anyways, I was having like, I had always had panic attacks and I didn't know there were panic attacks. Like mental health was not a conversation in my family at all. It was almost like a negative connotation of like ADHD. Like we don't have that. We don't do that. Yeah, not real. But I remember like I would just get so overwhelmed, and I would have these like fits of rage basically, where like I would throw and break things and hit things. And then it got so bad where I started having panic attacks where I started hitting myself and like punching myself in the face. And like there were a few times where I would give myself black eyes, and I still couldn't.
How old were you at the time?
This was only like 25, 26,
Okay.
like, yeah. And I had never done therapy before. And I remember I was out in LA because I had gotten asked to do this TikTok house at the time where they like had a bunch of artists at the TikTok house making TikToks and like the mansion. And it should have been like the greatest 2 weeks of my life because I was literally getting paid to live in a mansion and film videos. And that was it in like Hollywood. I'd never been there before, but I probably had like 6 or 7 panic attacks over those 2 weeks. So ADHD still wasn't really a thought yet, but I remember being at that house. I thought, okay, that would have been 2021. So like January, that would have been May 2021. So when I was in LA, I thought, okay, I need to go to therapy. Like, this isn't okay. I think I have like anger management issues. I think I have rage. I'm crazy, whatever. So I start going to therapy and I start realizing, or she is helping me realize that my panic attacks are being brought on by my ADHD. So I am already kind of like up in the clouds. I am really, really distracted. So I like lose my stuff and I have to spend like hours looking for my stuff a day or spend thousands of dollars like replacing things. Or I have an assignment or I have something that I will procrastinate and then dive into, and then it's hard for me to focus in on this. And there's all these little things that like ADHD is doing to me or whatever, like this way. And so then I get frustrated and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot find this thing. I'm stupid. You're so stupid. You're an idiot. You're so dumb. You can't do anything right. You whatever. And then I feel the tension go into my arms. I feel the shaking, and then I have to unleash that. And like I have to like get that out. So I realized that it was this so it was like this combination of like having the ADHD that makes me really frustrated and angry, and then I turn on myself and I'm like so mean to myself, and then the rage. And so there were a few things that, and I still am still working on this. Like it's such a journey. I'm now 30, so it's such a journey. But the thing, I had to forgive myself. I had to like understand that my brain just works differently. I'm still trying to understand ADHD. ADD, like the differences and all that stuff, and I would love to hear all of your knowledge.
Yeah, we've done a couple
that.
episodes on that. There's a left brain and right brain version of ADHD and what's actually happening in the brain, and that people that are right brain dominant usually have what we call type 1, which is the inattentive type. And you know, it's very different. It's complete opposite from the right brain type, which is more, you know, the classic type of thing you think of with ADHD. But yeah, so there's, you know, that's why we always try to turn it into a neuroscience thing. And what you're talking about is that classic, you know, right brain dominant, left brain deficit, inattention, or combined with daydreaming, or, you know, it's really not an attention deficit. It's kind of like you're paying attention to many things at the same time.
Yes.
So you can't pay attention to one thing. It's not that you're not paying attention at all. It's just the right brain has a very broad, open attention that's sustained, that goes on for a long time, where the left brain has a very short-term but very narrowed, intense focus. Mm-hmm. And to do certain things, we have to be able to do both, right? We have to be able to come in. Sometimes, you know, like with a camera, you have to zoom in, and other times you're going to zoom out. And so you zoom out too much, and you stay out, and you got everything in your field all the time, and it's hard for you to really zoom in and concentrate on that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the, it's not like you're not focusing on anything, you're just focusing on a million things. Like I genuinely feel like when I wake up in the morning, my brain has had 1,000 thoughts within the first 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then I do things like, my roommate the other day texted me and she was like, hey, do you need these 10 empty bottles of shampoo in our bathroom? And I'm like, no, I need them there because I have to pick them up, realize they're empty, and then set them back down and move on with my day. And I've always felt like I pass by things and stuff because because I know empty bottle go in trash can, but I've got too many things going on, and it's like, I don't know. And then it's like that times 10 throughout the week in general. Yes. I don't know. Are you this way?
No, everything you're saying. First of all, when things like this happen, it makes me feel like so happy because it's happening in front of my parents who have had to like see me have all these behaviors, and then they see like my successful friends be like, "This is what I've gone through," and I'm like, exactly. But no, it's like
not just me.
But also, I think it's important what you're saying. Like, I'm really appreciating you being so vulnerable and like saying that like you gave yourself like a black eye and everything like that, because that's kind of how, like, I used to struggle with self-harm, and like that started happening in college. And I remember the first time it happened was because I was trying really hard to have everything together, and I was like, had all these classes, and I was like running to things, and I remember I didn't know where I was in, like this special chorus class or whatever, and it was our performance, and I didn't know where the performance was, and I went to the wrong place, and that's not where it was, and I had no idea where it was, and then I was like so mad at myself, and that I was like, you fucking idiot, you don't know where your performance is, and you don't even know how to get there, and you don't even know, like, people are probably on stage right now. And then that's like the first time that I hurt myself, because I just was like, so I didn't know where to like put all of the anger and the pain that I had for myself. So I was like, oh, maybe if I can like maybe put that all into a place where I can actually feel like physical pain rather than whatever the hell's going on in my mind right now. But yeah, it's like you turn on yourself and you're just like, you idiot, why can't you figure this out? But it's even with like laundry, like I'll like be doing my laundry and I'll be like, okay, I'm putting all these clothes in here, and then I'll just like 2 hours later, like the door will just be open, and I never like press the on button because I was like, oh, I need to do my laundry, but then I also need to throw this out, but I also need to whatever. And then it's like I come back and like I have like 5 empty shampoo bottles in my shower right now. Like, it's all just, I get it, but it's, we're not doing it on purpose.
You like, I used to like accidentally leave the front door open all night, or like leave the stove on. I've almost set so many houses on fire. Like, I don't know. But the self-harm thing too is like to be extremely vulnerable on the subject. Like, so I keep a Band-Aid on my thumb, because I've always had this thumb where I will pick at my skin too until like it bleeds. And for like years I've had to, and like my therapist also touched on, she was like, well, that's like a form of self-harm, and I find I do it when I'm really stressed or also like very distracted. And so this is like a continuation of, I feel like, those violent panic attacks, which I actually have not had one of those violent panic attacks now in like 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So I did kind of like get that part under control thanks to like many things.
Was it like a process that you would go through in your head where you were like, okay, instead of getting myself to this point, like you calm yourself down? Or
yeah, so I think multiple things happened. It was like the therapy, which, oh gosh, therapy is so good. And I grew up, again, the narrative was like, we don't do that therapy thing. We don't do that therapy stuff. And then I went to therapy and I was like, this is great. We should be doing this. Forgiving myself and giving myself grace was so monumental. And then also I started bird watching, and not to be dramatic, bird watching, I'm gonna look at every camera for this. Everybody should start bird watching. You should start bird watching. There's so much like research behind it.
Well, also if they look at your social media, they'll want to start bird watching.
Go follow
for sure.
on Instagram and come into my bird watching world. But basically, I started it as a joke. I saw a bird and I thought it'd be hilarious. I was like, I need a hobby. I'm like crying every day. This is like not good. I'm sad. So I bought a pair of binoculars on Amazon, and I bought a bird watching book. And what you do when you bird watch, basically, is you are going out in nature. You're like going on a walk like you would normally do a mental health walk, but you're zoned in and you're hearing all these chirps, and you're hearing a ch-ch-ch-ch, and you're hearing a doo, 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 doo over here. And you're like trying to find, okay, oh, I see the bird here. Oh, where it is. Okay, got it locked in my binoculars. Okay, so it's got a white chest. It's small. It's gray on the back, gray head. Oh, that tail's bobbing. Okay, that's an eastern phoebe. And you're doing that like for, an hour or two, you're finding a sparrow and you're like, okay, it's got that like dark gray around its head is okay, that's a swamp sparrow. And so that birding is one of the things in life that for me, it forces me to be present. It forces me to not be distracted, and I'm not daydreaming, and I'm not like thinking of 1,000 scenarios. I'm just like thinking of the bird. And they're actually this scientist now is Peterman, I think it's Peterson, did an experiment where he had some students do like a normal nature walk once a week, and then he had some students do a bird walk, to go bird watching once a week. And the students who were bird watching reported more positive feelings than the students who were just on like the aimless nature walk. And I think because, there's so much research showing that like bird calls and bird sounds like make you feel good and make you happy and are so good for your brain. And you got to get like your vitamin D, and you're just outside in general so good for your brain. But the bird watching aspect, or people who get into like botany and plants and things like that, there's like a deeper connection with the moment and with nature, because you're having to be super focused and super observant. And so I think these two things where I decided to allow myself to not be perfect and to just kind of like forgive myself a little bit, and then have this hobby that brought my brain down to earth for a second, was like sweet relief.
Well, what you just described was, the way I look at it is, first of all, talk therapy, traditional talk therapy is very left brain, because you're talking, right? And you're talking about things, and even though there's a movement now to go more towards right brain feeling therapy, but for you, having a left brain deficit, and that being what's leading to these imbalances and these feelings, and that, your attention is too broad and open. Mm-hmm. So you're bringing that left brain up as you're doing it. And then the bird watching that you're talking about, everything you describe, what you're doing is now you're forcing narrow focus. You're forcing to look at the details of a bird, and you're forcing to have this kind of short-term intense focus. So you're engaging your left brain's attention network, and that shuts down your right, so that now you have a more balanced situation at that point. And so by doing both those things together, what you're doing is you're literally training your left brain. You're doing it mainly through cognitive things. Mm-hmm. Now, for other types of ADHD, it's been shown that them just going outside and doing a nature walk where they're not doing any details, and they're just being around in nature and walking around and what's called green therapy, that's more of a right brain deficit. So people that are actually naturally gifted in the left brain, that might be into math or might be overly focused on detail and not be able to do it on a long-term basis. A nature walk by itself might work for them, but for you, you found the exact right thing to do for you. And you can see now our approach, or what we talk about, is we just want people to know that they can do these things for themselves and not just haphazardly, randomly come upon it. Because imagine if you didn't, right?
Yeah.
You could still be self-harming yourself or worse. But there's also other ways that you can activate your own left brain and inhibit your right brain, that you can have control over it and do it in multiple ways. Like we said, using, colors or light or sound or vibration or electrical stimulation or other things like that. But it's pretty cool, because I'm listening to you as you're talking about how therapeutic it's all for you, and I'm thinking, wow, and
question for you. Okay, if our brains are like built for survival, right? Like we're built to want to survive, when in evolution, and like where does that come, the need to hurt ourselves from? Because isn't our brain supposed to be anti-harm? Like why do I pick at my skin, and like why do I want to hurt myself?
Well, I think it, that's a maladaptive thing, right? Mm-hmm. So first of all, I think that early humans, the whole idea of being right brain dominant there's hunter-gatherer style. So what do you have? You have some of the people that are there are out hunting, and they need to be able to non-verbally communicate with other people and work as a group, and they need to be able to throw spears, or they need to be able to, run fast, or they need to be able to do multiple things at the same time.
Yeah.
And then back in the settlement, you have people that might be, looking for little berries and trying to do child rearing or organizing things in a certain way and trying to, things that are more detail oriented. We've had different evolutionary adaptations in our brain to allow us to survive. And humans, more than any other animal, really, the reason why we survive is because we get along with other people. We're in groups. So we have to also have different styles and different personality styles and get along. But I think from the standpoint of hurting oneself, like Ellis said, feeling pain and interoception and connecting with our body and our body feelings is more of a right brain thing. And there's an area called the insula on the right side, which is where we become self-aware and we become embodied. But it's also the only place where we actually feel pain. And
so we feel pain in our
right. We feel pain in primarily. We feel it in both sides, but primarily in that right insula area. And that's also the same area that we feel rejection, by the way. So the idea that we feel pain, but when you're feeling emotional pain, physical pain, you hurt yourself, you hurt your thumb, whatever, your body's able to localize and go, oh, I hurt my thumb and I have pain and my thumb hurts.
Yeah.
But emotional pain is everywhere and it's nowhere. And it's when you have, your thumb hurts, you can grab it and hold it, you can put ice on it, you can do something to soothe it. When your whole body, when you're emotionally in pain, what do? How do you soothe that? And so what she was saying, a lot of people then will go and do self-harm where you make it into a physical injury, which is something that you can then manage, that's more tangible. But then there's also the self-loathing.
Yeah.
There's also the self-loathing part that when you get, really angry with yourself because, rejection sensitivity is another right brain thing. So, if you were in the Stone Age and you were kicked out of a group because you did something stupid or because you didn't do something that was going to help you forgot something important that you were supposed to do, you'd get kicked out and that's a death sentence. Yeah. So it would be really, that's where embarrassment and shame and guilt come from.
Yeah, embarrassment and self-loathing is something I struggle with a lot. And it's hard because we're performers and I have always had that need to be like, everybody look at me. And then the next day I'm like, oh my God, everybody was looking at me and you're such an idiot, you're stupid, you're dumb, and da-da-da-da. And it's like that constant cycle. It's so debilitating.
She's just literally saying all of my inner thoughts that I'm like,
Alice, we need to hang out.
I know.
we see each other like quite often. I think we need to double it.
Yeah, we need to double it for sure. Yeah, that's what I've always, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like yes, but I've always explained to him like that I would play like whenever I would play shows and when I was living in New York City, like I would have a great time on stage, whatever. Everyone would seem to have a good time. And then afterwards I would be like, and I would just go home. And then the whole next day I was like, I feel awful. Like I just felt, I don't know. I don't know if it's about like the fact that you're pouring your heart out on stage and everyone's watching you or whatever. But it's like, yeah, you want that so badly. Obviously, we're like, look at me. I wrote all these songs for you. Please love me. And then the whole next day, I'm like, yeah, it's exactly how you just described it.
Yeah.
It's just an endless cycle.
Yeah. Okay, doctor, how do we fix our brain? Fix us.
You've already done some of it on your own.
Yeah, you start bird watching, obviously.
But the good thing about it is that you realize that you can change your brain. You have, and it's made you feel better, right? You're not hurting yourself, and some of your emotions are a little bit more regulated. But if you really understand what you're doing and you do it more specifically, you can activate that left brain even more and do it repetitively like a muscle, right? You can't just do it for symptom relief. You can, but you don't want to just do it like, when I feel bad, I take this pill, or, when I have a headache, I take an Advil. You want to say, well, why do I have headaches? And what do I do on a regular basis to get rid of those headaches? So the brain is more dynamic than any part of your body. So you need to constantly be stimulating it in the right way and in a directed way. And your brain will start to adapt more in that way. So its natural state will start to reach that. But, you know, when you guys are out there and you're using your imagination constantly and you're writing songs and you're doing these things, you're using your right brain so high, and that what happens drives down your left brain. And so, you know, as we talk about, is that same area of your brain that makes you want to perform and really good at it and writing and doing that, you're activating it so high when you're out there. But that same area of the brain makes you feel like judgmental of yourself, makes you feel negative, lowers your self-esteem, makes you feel, you know, like anxious and ashamed and guilty. And then that also drives down joy and pride on the other side. So it's kind of like a mini bipolar thing, right? That's what bipolar is. But what happens is you're going into this state that's almost like this manic performance state, driving the left brain down. And then when that's over, you're left with the downside. You're left with the depression and the lack of joy and all of that.
Oh, the comedown is so real. And I remember my first experience with that specifically. It was in ballet. Never forget, I got Clara and the Nutcracker. It was the lead role. And I was so excited. And there's so much build up. There were hours of rehearsals and the opening night Clara. And like, I remember just being so excited, and the performance happened. And I'll never forget, my dad was carrying me to the car and I started sobbing. And my dad was like, "Why? What's up? Are you okay?" And I was like, "It's over. Like, it's over." And that's like such a vivid memory. And I experience that now, where I'm also a very like goal and accolade oriented person. I always want to be like doing the next thing of like, I always want to be able to answer when someone's like, "Bonner, what are you doing next?" Well, I'm doing this tour and I'm doing the keynote speaker at the Alabama Ornithological Society. but when after that talk's over, then what's the next thing? And I actually was recently struggling with this because I had like a month run where I was a keynote speaker at the Delta Birding Festival. I played some shows in New York. Cornell invited me to their ornithology lab and like gave me a cute little certificate. And, like, just some cool things happened, and I played some cool shows. I opened for one of my favorite musicians, Scott Mulvihill, and it was all great, and it was all so fast. Like, I was gone for a month, and then I got back on October 7th, and y'all, all of October, I've been so depressed. And also those like meanie thoughts to myself of like, you're stupid and like a piece of garbage and all that stuff. And I've had like no drive to make my skits. I've had no drive. I've barely posted on Instagram in October because that comedown just felt so heavy. And like, I've been trying to kind of come out of it the past. Actually, one of my best friends called me out on it like 4 days ago because I had been venting to her, and she texted me later and she was like, "Look, you're living in like a negative state of mind right now. Like, you're just kind of like embodying it. And I just want to call you out on that." And I was like, that's a real friend. But yeah.
Well, this is kind of the point of what you wanted to do this, was because, you know, it could describe exactly what's happening, but there are things you can do on your downtime that can actually reproduce what you're doing naturally, which is, you know, trying to set goals, which is more left brain, trying to be focused on some sort of, you have some sort of, you know, organizational structure around you where you're doing things. And so all of that is kind of activating your left brain. But then when you're not in that state, you know, you go back into this right brain state. So there are things you can do in the interim, and we can show you, and we're putting together like this brain box of different tools that you can use so that, you know, when I'm
you could put them in your skits.
Oh yeah.
We can actually do this and train my brain and get it into this state so that I don't go through these periods and struggle, and that you just understand that, again, it's not just, you know, a weakness that you have or that you're a bad person or anything like that. It's just the way your brain works. And the same thing that gives you this incredible talent also gives you the same vulnerability. And so, like we always ask, would you give up your talent, to be able to be normal or act like everybody else?
No.
Right. So then you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can just figure out, okay, what do I do to balance this out?
Well, also,
okay.
I just want to say, like, I just being your friend just for the past couple years, like, I've always admired you and always deeply admired your songwriting and everything, but just seeing, like, from an outsider, how much you've grown and how, like, everything that you've done, I think is incredibly just so impressive. And I know it's like hard because I totally get it. When you're alone with yourself every day, you're like ripping yourself apart. But I think, like, I don't know, your younger self would be really proud of you. And sometimes you got to remind yourself.
I don't think she would be, actually, because my younger self wanted Grammys and to be super world famous and wanted to be Hannah Montana. So it's funny because when people like joke, they're like, but your younger self would think you're so cool. My younger self would be like, we didn't marry Nick Jonas. What happened?
You still can.
But
You're still young.
I think the self that moved to Nashville, though, actually might be like, I think I would just be stoked that I'm still a creative. Actually, I think that would be the thing where at least I'd be like, yeah, but okay, we're doing music for a living. Okay, like, calm it down. What's in the brain box? What is the brain box?
Oh,
can we not talk about it?
No, we can talk about the brain box.
I'm so curious.
Inner circle. No, it's gonna be like the red light lenses that I wear, which are like,
we were talking about.
Yeah, which those are great. And then a TENS unit,
brain driver,
transcranial.
Direct.
Can you please just help me out? I can't.
No, I
you just watch it.
My favorite thing about watching it, like listening to like your podcast or like Andrew Huberman or something yours, is like I hear all these terms and I can't ever repeat them. Like I can't repeat the like scientific.
Well, as a professor
just, like,
of
watches me
ornithology,
try.
you're gonna have to start.
Amateur ornithologist, hobbyist.
No, it's gonna be like kind of like electromagnetic.
All going to be
things.
different tools that
You could come over and test them out
So
because I have them all at my apartment.
Like different smells, different types of essential oils, different types of colors, music, sound, vibration, electrical current, other types of tools that we will go through that can be used, that you can do things to manage this on your own, so that you can basically train your brain to get into that state. And then you can do other things like, bird watching and talk therapy and, other things like that you naturally have found, but that you can do it on in a program to be able to manage your brain and your skills, so that when you're doing something super, super creative, you're also doing something that you don't go through that crash after.
Yeah, the highs and lows are really tough, especially when I do feel like I've been struggling with it a lot recently. And the tough thing is I have so many things that I want to do. Like I actually am like starting to write a book right now, and like I'm also doing a podcast, and the lack of motivation and the like waking up in the morning and just already like the past couple of weeks have just been so low, and I can't like bring myself to do any of that. Can I ask you about supplementation for these things, like vitamins and things? Like, because I've heard, what is it, like L-tyrosine, and like I've heard lots of different things. Are there like natural supplements that people like me should take, or is that kind of like, also I've heard some people like, well, that's BS, you just pee it out anyways, or like whatever. Like,
no, supplements are real, but again, just like anything else, you need to look at what are you trying to use them for. I mean, there are supplements that are naturally good for us, because in modern society, diet isn't great. A lot of the foods are processed. So eating natural, healthy foods and things like that. And, most people don't get enough vitamin D. They think they're going to go outside or because you're out in the sun. But most people are deficient in vitamin D, which is really big. Most people need omega-3s. So there's certain basic things that I do every day for the most part, or that I tell people. But then I've created supplements that actually are specific for right brain and left brain. So no one's ever done that before. But the differences are there are different neurotransmitters for right brain and left brain. And so tyrosine is an amino acid that helps to build serotonin and dopamine. And so you can take different amino acids that are building blocks for building neurotransmitters that can make them more available. But the idea that we have chemical imbalances in our brain and that's the root cause is not right. But if you have deficiencies in amino acids, if you don't eat enough protein, if you don't have your gut working properly, then you may not be able to get some of the resources to build those neurotransmitters. But more often than not, again, you know, if you're deficient in, if you have a left brain deficit, then you're not using the dopamine pathways, or serotonin is more right brain.
Yeah.
So there are things, and there are other things like in my left brain vitamin, I use what's called huperzine, which is a cognitive enhancer that seems to enhance choline, which is again a left brain type of neurotransmitter and memory and detail. So there are different things that you can do that can help nutritionally.
Yeah. I feel like this has been like therapeutic to me. Even hearing you say the term left brain deficit almost allows me to give myself a little bit more grace, because I'm like, yeah, Bonner, you might have a little bit of a left brain deficit.
Join the club.
Like, yeah, Ellis, it's okay. It's okay that you were.
But why do you have a deficit? I want you to
Why
think
do
about,
I have a deficit?
because you're so gifted in your right brain. I say
Yes.
this.
Shucks
No, but I
now.
say this to every patient, every parent. People that walk in our door in our clinic in New York, every parent, and believe me, parents struggle with this because they feel like they did something wrong. They feel like they hurt their child. And now with a lot of the news coming out, oh my God, I took Tylenol and I did this to my child, or you know what I'm saying? So it's a struggle, and the blame thing happens, and you blame yourself, like there's something wrong with me. Parents will blame themselves or blame each other, and their marriage breaks up. So it's really important that I say to them, you got to understand, you didn't do anything wrong. You gave your child a gift. They're gifted. They're unusually strong in an area of their brain. It's like you gave them a superpower, but at the same time, you also gave them a vulnerability to kryptonite, right? So there's a vulnerability that comes with
Superman.
that gift.
Yeah,
And so, I want you to think not in the terms of the deficit, but the deficit is because your gift is so strong. But you can keep the gift and get away and correct the deficit. You can bring that up to actually even match your gift. And
Which
both
you've been
sides.
doing
Wow.
naturally.
Which you
Such
have
a
been
message
doing.
of hope, actually.
Yeah.
Thank
But it
you.
even shows that, the right brain is actually incredibly powerful and smart. And I say it all the time, it's actually, it's faster. It can do multiple things at the same time. And it processes information instantaneously all at once. And the problem is that school and academics is a left brain world, and it needs to be done slowly and sequentially. Math is something that's done like one step at a time.
Yeah.
It's not like just come up with the answer, which is how the right brain would work. So right brain people are actually very, very, very intelligent, but in the left brain world in academics, they're made to feel dumb or stupid or slow.
Yeah.
When it's actually they're too fast and they can't get their brain slower to fit into that world. And so, but if all of a sudden becoming intelligent or becoming smart becomes something that you view as, oh, this is going to make, this is going to make people like me, you can become smarter than anybody, which is what you're showing. Even in the science world, you can step into that and become like a world-class scientist.
Yeah, I do want to give my mom huge kudos, because even though like the therapy and ADHD wasn't much of a conversation, as an educator, she did, and she says this all the time, she recognized that I was a very creative person, and she never punished me for that. And when she took me out of school, I remember she defended me with the teachers, and she was like, well, like, because the teacher was like, she just doesn't pay attention, she doesn't care. And my mom was like, well, when she loves something, she will pay attention. And my mom really did nurture that creative side of my brain. It was a big reason why she started homeschooling me. And so I kind of like eventually went on to figure it out more. But I think her being an educator and then kind of tailoring my school work to that was very helpful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So,
It's amazing.
Thanks, Mom.
Bonner, I think this is one of my favorite episodes ever, honestly.
How about you say that to everyone?
No, I really don't. I don't. I mean, I love everyone that comes on. Obviously, I'm very specific about who I asked to come on here, but I think like I feel like everything that you've said on this has been even more helpful than to like the people that are listening, and I know there's a lot of people that look up to you, and I don't know. I just think you being so vulnerable about how you feel in between times of like success and stuff is something people don't talk about enough. And I think it's really important that you did. And also you're kind of teaching people that you can accidentally kind of like build up your left brain. Like you found bird watching, and he's saying that's like kind of like a left brain thing. And that's like what balances you out.
But it totally is such a great grounding exercise in general. And like just an addition to your nature walk, is checking out the birds. But yeah, no.
So if there's like one thing, because we normally ask like near the end if like you could give advice to people similar to you, what if there's no pressure, but like
no one needs advice from me. If I gave advice to anyone, it'd just be don't give up on yourself. I think like listen to the Right Brain podcast, go listen to 1,000 podcasts, go to therapy, go like just keep doing what you got to do. Because I found myself in the darkest place. That was the 4 or 5 years ago, like the panic attacks, so like punching myself in the face, like that, not giving up on myself and wanting to like be happier and just being willing to like try everything and like actually showing up for therapy, actually showing up for the things is what made me feel better. And even through this past month when I've been in this really dark place, like I have had these thoughts in my brain where I'm like, Bonner, we're going to go to the gym. We have to go to the gym. We don't want to go to the gym, but you have to go because gym make brain happy. And you have to go on a bird walk. And even though maybe it'll only be happy for 2 hours and I get home and I'm depressed again, like I know that if I continue to do the things that I know are going to help, eventually I will claw myself out of the darkness and I will find the light again. So if like anyone out there is just really struggling or in a dark place, like just keep clawing yourself out. Like keep doing everything. Listen to whatever you tell them to do. I can't wait for the brain box. Like I'm literally anything you tell me to do, I will do. So yeah, don't give up on yourself. Keep going.
That's
and also to you,
beautiful.
babe, because you're so good and so talented and so wonderful. And
Thanks, Bonner.
yeah, we don't need to hate ourselves. We need to love ourselves.
That's true. That's very true. You heard it here first, guys. Love yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Check out all of her music.
Yes, Bonner Black.
Thanks.
Amazing.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
you.
being here, Bonner.
Yes.
Okay, we love you. Until next time.
Is that bird watching or heart?
Oh my gosh, wait, do we start a new thing?
Sorry.
It's like, oh my God.
Wow,
We
the next
started a new
skit.
thing. Okay.
See, I am right brain dominant.
Wow, this is all he ever wanted. She's going no. Okay, well, thank you so much, Bonner. Loved having you.
Thanks.
All right.
Loved being here. Really best.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.